Thank you, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today in Madrid with all of you, and I appreciate the next sort of 45 minutes of your time while I take you through the good, the bad, and the ugly of artificial intelligence in education. So I'm going to try and speak a bit slower because Victoria will tell you I'm known to be a bit of a speed train with the speed that I speak, and I know that we have translators here. But I also, at the same time, am warning you that you need to hold on to your seats. This is going to be a relatively speedy presentation because this is the most rapidly advancing and developing technology in the world. And I have 20 minutes, 19 minutes and 30 seconds to take you through the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you're going to hold on to your seats and your hats, and we're going to get through it. So the first thing I wanted to say was I was delighted to be asked to come here today by Telefonica. It's possibly a story for another time, but I'm a lawyer who then ran a food company and then ran an AI company. And it sounds like the most ridiculous career journey, but the North Star is I wanted to change the world. When I turned up to Telefónica's offices, Wyra's offices in the United Kingdom, about 8 years ago, and I said, I want to build an AI company that learns how the brain learns and personalizes education for any child. As a female in artificial intelligence who is not a former engineer at Google or Facebook, you can imagine how difficult it was to get investment and backers. I was probably the first person, Wyra, which is Telefónica's sort of incubator and accelerator program for businesses, they invested in me with me and a piece of paper. I didn't have any code, any tech, and any team. So I'm delighted so many years on to be able to address this audience here today. So on this subject, how many of you use artificial intelligence on a daily basis? Put your hand up. Okay, you keep your hand up. Keep your hand up, keep your hand up. Add your hand if you shop on Amazon. Keep your hands up. Now, add your hand if you search on Google or Bing or any other sort of search engine. Now, everyone's got their hands up. You all use artificial intelligence every single day. You're using it on your smartphones to shop, to save, to pick movies, to watch films. You are using it every day. So the question is, why don't we use it across education for arguably the most important sector in the world? How many of you have logged into ChatGPT and seen the explosion? Put your hands up. If you have not played with this chatbot technology, it's free to use. It's not going to bite you. You're not going to break it. You need to try it out, okay? Because it's pretty mind-blowing in terms of how it works. Now, what actually happened was this technology came out in November last year, and it captured the masses in terms of their imagination. Here you've got some of the most popular programs and applications that you use. Look at the second dot. That's how long it took to get 100 million users of technology. So Netflix, something we're so used to using, took more than 3,500 days to get 100 million users. Even Instagram, right, over like 1,000 days. ChatGPT took just a few days to get 100 million users. So if you haven't used it, I suggest at least you try and have a play with it. Now, when we have a conversation about artificial intelligence and there are these chatbots, we have AI on your smartphones, you always end up in this conversation at a dinner table with someone, right? Either it's this utopian future or it's this dystopian future. And I love Marvel, right? So I'm just bringing vision into here for any fellow Marvel fans. It's this robot. It's going to take over the world. It's going to take over our lives. We're going to end up with some C-3PO from Star Wars in the classroom with our children, and it's going to be terrible. Today, actually, in artificial intelligence, we still don't have this artificial general intelligence. The key is an AI that can learn and adapt to new situations. AI is narrow. It's built for a very specific task. Even ChatGPT, even all of those sort of voice apps that you use to help you, what's the weather today? Century with personalized education, Amazon with shopping. As much as like the CEO of Telefonica would like, that AI is not going to break out of the box and go and do their laundry for them at home, okay? It's not able to do that, okay? We're not there. So those conversations, all I would say to an education community is don't let them stifle the exploration of the opportunity of AI in front of you. Because often we get scared with those conversations and then we hold back and we're very risk averse and then we're not exploring the benefits and the opportunities. When it comes to technology, technology has already impacted education quite significantly. We actually started off with digital education on televisions many, many years ago. Then we had the computer revolution. Then we had internet and information accessibility. Then we had EdTech, and now we have AI. So there has actually been an evolution of technology available to education and in schools for many, many years. So what does that mean about now? And what's the good, right? What's the good of education? Well, with these chat tools, and if any of you are on social media, you're following educators, they're saying, how can you use this AI technology in the classroom? So with generative AI, which is an AI that essentially, the word generate is the giveaway. It generates content, it generates media. It's based using what you'll hear is a large language model, but you don't need to worry about that too much. It just generates new media and new content. There are lots of use cases in modern education today where this technology is having an impact. People are using it to improve their writing, feedback on assignments, to generate ideas, to debate generation, right? What should we debate in class today? Quiz generation. And people are a little bit scared that students are using it to create the essays and cheat, and we're going to talk about that in a little while. But there are lots of good use cases. Have we got any teachers in the room today? Put your hand up. Okay, all of you, you don't create your lesson plan and what you're going to teach while you're at school. You do it on the weekend, you do it in the evenings, and you do it in the holidays. You spend a lot of time generating all of this information. Imagine if you had a tool that could do a fair amount of the work for you, which you then essentially just quality control and you can refine later. It saves an enormous amount of time. Then we have the sort of older AI, the much more developed AI, right? Classical AI. This is AI that doesn't generate any content. Now, just again, so everybody's following me here, some of you have heard in the news of artificial intelligence that can go through scans in hospitals and spot tumors, right? And it helps radiologists spot tumors when they're looking for cancer, okay? Those sorts of AI technologies are looking at patterns in the data and in the information to predict, is this a tumor, is it not a tumor? The same sort of artificial intelligence will be looking at patterns and correlations. How do you all watch films on Netflix versus how you all watch films on Netflix? And then when this lady comes onto Netflix and you behave in a similar way to that group, what's the pattern and correlation in the data to make the best recommendation for you in terms of what you watch next, right? So we have these machine learning AI techniques that have been going on for years and years. We're using them on our smartphones, and that has also been in the classroom. How has it affected modern education? In a good way. Well, with a structured curriculum, the Spanish curriculum, with an international curriculum, how can you measure exactly how a child is performing, right? Can we predict the probability of you going online? How are you going to perform on a question before you actually do it? If the machine with very high accuracy can say you're going to struggle, what is the key intervention the machine can give you so you're not stuck? Imagine a child who never has to be stuck again. If you have a machine where if you're studying physics, is it the physics you don't understand, or is it because you can't calculate equations in maths? Should it give you the maths to fix the physics? Imagine if it could do that. Does a physics teacher have time to do that for 30 children in front of them every single day? So how can this AI be used for that way? How could it improve mastery methodology, personalized learning, interventions, and also in higher education, we've seen this technology be able to predict dropout. If you can predict dropout and then have an intervention, human to human, how powerful can that be? So you've had personalized learning, right, where children get these interventions and personalized learning in real time, intelligent tutoring, automated marking. This is actually a school in Bilbao. They saved 250 hours of marking time, right? And then they got the data to be able to make interventions. And so even across Spain, this technology is being used in education today. You've got gamification, language translation, data-driven insights. In my class of students, a third of them are multiplying fractions. 2/3 don't know what the common denominator is. A machine that can give them that lesson already, but a teacher who then knows, well, there's no point now going on. I need to solve that problem. We know in education across the world, from Spain to all around the world, if there are gaps in knowledge at the beginning, right, and they widen, they only widen as they go through education. So we need to solve those learning, those knowledge gaps, and those skill gaps. So we have all of these tools. And in education, it's always like, how do we actually implement this? And I often get people coming to me and they say, we're going to go and buy lots of shiny tablets and we're going to put them in our school. You don't buy shiny new hardware and put them in the school without a plan as to how you're going to embed it. I always say to people, having run an edtech company serving schools across 62 countries, that doesn't work. It is not about the software and the technology existing. It's there. It's change management. It's about allowing teachers, and teaching is as personalized as learning is. How can they embed these tools in the classroom? There is one way to do it. In the staff room, when you're talking to your fellow colleagues, you have a conversation. It has to be a problem-solving or a goals-driven approach. Is our key priority improving learning outcomes? Efficacy in learning, motivation to learn, giving children the resources, the high quality resources that dynamically will adapt and personalize? Is it increasing the impact of the teachers? I know most people would tick all of these boxes, but what is the key problem you want to solve using AI technology? And then it's finding the tools to suit those particular goals or those problems. So essentially, about 9 years ago, we thought, how can we learn how the brain learns? How can we adapt the curriculum to the student so it personalizes in real time? And I'm just going to show you how you build a technology like this. We went away and we researched Google. We researched the systems, essentially, that have telemetry data. This is mouse tracking movements. Imagine a platform, a technology, a website, you log in, and it tracks every mouse movement. Say, for example, with search engines, they don't just track what you click on, but they track on what you're hovering over as well. And they're collecting all of those insights and all that data. So the next time that this gentleman logs in and he asks a question, it knows exactly what you meant by the words, and then it gives you the right search engine results. Why can't we build that for education? Why can't we build a tool that can house English content, Spanish content, Arabic content, any content, from further education, higher education, to phonics, right? Things for 5- and 6-year-olds. If you track every movement and you use language AI to learn what the content is about, then I can learn whether you understand the content in front of you through formative assessment, through questions, quick-fire questions, through summative assessment, gather that data, and then it can make interventions right at the point of need. So as a student learns, it tracks every mouse movement, it collects the data, and then it also provides insights. So over 9 years and 24 billion data points, over 100 million lessons, personalized lessons delivered, and 1 billion questions that we're about to reach, you can imagine the machine now has learned more than a single human, more than many humans, more than many human teachers are. There is a pattern here, and here is where we need to make an intervention. The way it essentially works, this is in Spanish. Ruta is here. It analyzes every mouse movement, and it will say in maths, here is your personalized pathway. You don't understand, I think that's division. This is the Spanish platform, and I don't speak Spanish, but here we go, division. You need to focus on this. Ruta goes in, it gives her optional content, and you can see it's tracking and picking up every mouse movement. She's going to watch a video, she's going to skip. Now, a platform like this knows if you're guessing, hesitating, or skipping. How many systems do people put headphones on and just skip through multiple choice until they can get the right answer? I'm getting lots of nods, which makes me feel that you've done that before, but I will ignore this. And so, if a platform can see, well, hang on, you skipped through it. Now, if I'm a teacher and I have you both, and you both got 50% in my class, I potentially am going to treat you in exactly the same way tomorrow, correct? But you spent 4 hours learning, and really, I know, he's like, I desperately tried to understand the topic. You skipped, all right? You were there, and you were just getting through it. Can you see how common sense even tells us you don't need to be a teacher? You should treat these two people very differently in terms of the intervention that you would make. So a machine that can track that information, and then you can go through the courses. You can see when students are even being disciplined. I'm going to find a topic in Spanish mathematics curriculum. I'm going to see how I was performing. I'm going to actually see the misconceptions the platform is giving to me. Is this a gap in knowledge? Is this something where I need to stretch and challenge? And I'm going to proactively go there. And then, this is for you, This is needs more effort. That basically means you're a bit lazy, okay? But it's a nice way of saying it. Needs stretch, needs support, okay? Spend a lot of time on this, and praise for commitment. In a classroom, you ask most teachers, who do you focus on? They focus on the mean, because you have 20 or 30 students in front of you, a curriculum to get through in a short period of time. What's so fascinating about this sort of technology, and what we see, is they focus on the outliers. This is a technology where you focus on the people who are at the edges. Who is that person? What do I need to do? And where do I need to focus? On the person, what's their skill set, their strengths, their weaknesses? What should they focus on? Now, there is no teacher in the world where if you give them this, and you see the class and you see the children, they don't want that information. Because no teacher signs up to do what, let's face it, they don't do what they do for the money, okay? They're doing what they're doing for a living because they want to change lives. They want to impart knowledge of a subject they are passionate about. There is no teacher in the world that looks at that and says, I don't want it. But the issue is scale, and there are all sorts of issues as to why there is a challenge in getting artificial intelligence technology out there into the village school, where those schools don't come to the conferences, they don't sit there, they don't understand actually what this technology is, and they're very focused on the potential dystopian future, and actually a slight misunderstanding about where AI is right now and how that AI has been developed. But these are all the potential opportunities. What can you do with that? Well, you could map Spain, region by region, and you could give it to the Minister of Education and say, do you want to know where you should spend millions of euros of resources now, rather than next year at the end of the exams when it's already too late? You have real-time data. In the UK, you could do red, amber, green, literacy, numeracy, the sciences. You could split it by region. How is the North, the Midlands, the South doing? Summer versus September born. Teachers love this debate. Are you more advantaged by being born in September when the academic year starts and disadvantaged being born in July? This is the UK in terms of our schools and our data. In year 3 in primary, yes. But you see how schools do quite a great job at narrowing the gap later on in the school, but you see how that changes. You can map any external data to these sorts of data sets so that you can learn and make decisions. Policymakers can make fantastic evidence-based policy decisions using this sort of intelligence. Schools that benchmark against each other. If we have a group of schools, how are we doing against each other? What do you do with this? Well, the bottom 2 schools, where are they struggling? You then deeply go into the data, and then you get the top schools to buddy with them. You say, what is the know-how that you know and how you're performing, and how can we borrow that knowledge to improve education elsewhere? What is the impact of technology? The technology itself can tell you. From one attempt to another, have students actually increased their knowledge? Because surely if that's one of the key goals, is it actually having that impact? Will AI replace teachers? People ask me that, right? Will it? Can I say, are you familiar with DALL-E and Midjourney and these image? Okay, can I answer this question? I know this technology is getting a lot better. I asked DALL-E, can you give me an image? This is an AI, okay? It's a large language model based, it's transformer technology. It's the same as ChatGPT. Very similar, I should say. Can you give me an image of a robot teacher in a classroom? And do you know what it did? Just watch this, right? So I asked it, I promise you I did not, you can even see me typing it in here, I haven't prompted it and tried to cheat. So will AI replace teachers? Will AI replace humans? No matter what, right? When a technology gives you an image of a robot, but with a blackboard, you start to really realize, would you ever have drawn that? No, you'd have given me VR and AR and Google Glass, even though that's not around at the moment. But you would have done all of that. You would never have put chalk and a blackboard. It just goes to show that AI is built in a way where it's making these decisions. It's looking at probabilities. That's all it's actually doing. But it's not sentient. It can't think, right? And sometimes, even though the context will get better, it's getting much more powerful. It is. It will make less of those mistakes. But you can start to see the cracks in the technology. This is a really, really big, famous school. It's run by Sir Anthony Seldon, who's a dear friend of mine, and he's head teacher there at Epsom College. This is their front page. Every one of your schools, when you put your hands up, you have a front website, meet the head teacher, the principal. Are you going to send your kids to the school that looks like this? No. So when it comes to will it replace us, I mean, hopefully this gives you a taste of that is actually how absurd those sorts of questions are. Now, are there skills and things that the technology can do and replace? Absolutely. But is the delta between AI and HI, artificial intelligence and human intelligence, what's the delta? That delta is a thing that we need to focus on and nurture. The World Economic Forum and others have done lots of reports on future skills that hopefully Victoria and I will get time to talk about. How can we focus on those skills and nurture those skills? How can we use AI to give us more time in the classroom for critical thinking, for analytical thinking, for skills where that human-to-human relationship is super important? When we've got essentially reports coming out about the displacement of jobs, again, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to sit back and say, oh, this technology is terrible, it's going to do all this damage, or are we going to leverage it for its opportunities and let it help us on the journey? Now, very quickly, the bad. I'll spend a couple of minutes in this area as well. This is my son's homework. It's analysing Scrooge, the character in A Christmas Carol. And this is what teachers are afraid of. GPT is basically looking like it's doing his homework for him. So what teachers are doing is they're going into other tools, such as GPT 0, this one, and they're saying, did the student teach? So I've now pasted my son's answer from ChatGPT into another tool using similar technology, and it said it may use AI. The only problem with this sort of technology is it's giving you a probability. Here's a probability that AI has created this script. So if any of your kids are coming home saying, my teacher told me off, they said that I was cheating because they use a tool, just remember it's a probability, okay? But the argument here is that even though this might seem like the bad, why don't you put your kid in front of the technology? Let them use it and say, now you critique the answer. You critique the answer, because while they're learning from it, they're also able to practice those really, really valuable skills. I'll need the sound up for this, and here's the ugly. Now, this is what I'm afraid of. I'm writing a book about this at the moment, and I think this is a real problem. But this is, again, why we need those critical thinking skills. We need to give teachers the time to be able to focus on those. This is the ugly. So many of you have seen this. They're deep fakes, right? And there are different examples of this, right? So Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks just the other week, Barack Obama. And it's the ability to use technology. I just want to kind of show you how easy it is. I can't show you the end result because I get into trouble for it. And I did it at Eton, where I created a deep fake of Boris Johnson, who went to Eton. And I decided I wouldn't show the end result ever again, but I'll show you how you do it, okay? So how you do it is you go on ChatGPT, if you want to, and you can create a script. So here I created can you write a script for Boris Johnson at Eton talking about artificial intelligence? So ChatGPT wrote the script for me. And then essentially all people do, that's one step, correct? Yeah, one step. Second step, I went onto the internet and I downloaded Boris Johnson's speeches as Prime Minister from YouTube and elsewhere. Step number 2, yes? This is 2 steps, okay? All right, I downloaded those. Then I went on to 11IO, the voice lab, and I spoke out, I gave the speech myself, and then I cloned his voice, and you can see me cloning his voice here, okay? And then so that's 3 steps. And then the 4th step was I actually merged my face with his face, and then I created an output. But can you see in less than a handful of steps how you can create actually a deepfake using software that's there? What I'd like to tell you is that I think within 12 months' time, there'll be 1 step. You just go into one app, it will merge the whole lot together, and off you go. This is a problem. Why is it a problem? Well, 1/3 of you consume your news from social media. Some of that is from citizen journalists. Do you know that it's true? Now, as our children grow up, as your students grow up, they're always spending more time in the digital world, even more than the physical world, right? We can see that happening with the way technology has grabbed attention. Does that mean you ban it? You can't ban it. It's all over the place. It's all around their lives. But what it does mean is that students need to be a lot more discerning about the news in which they take in. Otherwise, we're potentially going to end up in a world with sort of erosion of trust. And what's so interesting is that news and real truth is the foundation of a democracy. So you can see why is this important? Well, the good of AI that saves time, that helps us intervene, that helps us get the outcomes, gives us the space to focus on things like this. And not to end on such a bad note, when there are bad actors out there creating awful technology and leveraging technology that was usually built for good, but they're leveraging it in the wrong way and in the bad way, there are always people out there developing new things. This is an example of Fake Catcher, an application where what they want to do is put this on your browser and it will scan the blood flow behind any face on a video. If there's no blood flow, it will be a deep fake. Isn't that incredible? So the nice thing about this, and it sort of goes back to where I started on Telefonica, and thanks to them for investing in me to create AI for good in education, and Century, which you saw there, is that there are always going to be those innovators and those entrepreneurs that want to do social good. And there's another example there. Now, thank you for listening to me. I'm going to invite Victoria Navajo, who is the head of Wira UK, of portfolios, the portfolio companies in Wira UK, to join me on stage to ask me a few questions. Thank you.
Hey. It's a pleasure listening to you as usual. This is for translation in case you need it.
Perfect.
Okay? So it's amazing. It's quite scary, but it's amazing what AI is doing in education. So you have said that AI would not replace teachers.
Yeah.
But what are the skills that they would need to develop to thrive in this new environment?
See, that's a really good question, because when you're serving already so many schools and with different contexts, you see that it's the change management issue that's often the problem. It's teachers that don't want to embed the technology. So in a school, you'll find that there'll be a math teacher or a geography teacher or a physics teacher who'll say, I really want to try it, and they'll love it. And others won't even try it because they're scared of it, right? They're scared it's going to replace them. They're scared they don't know how to use it. And sometimes they just don't have the time. So in terms of the skills, I don't particularly love it when people say, we've got to teach teachers how to code. When are they going to do that? They don't have any time to learn how to do that. We're going to get them better on digital skills. The pandemic was the world's largest EdTech experiment, and actually many teachers, not all of them, but many of them did grab hold of the technology and actually became pretty savvy in using technology. It's about giving them the space and the room to try it out. Because when you see it, I showed you that data, you wouldn't not want that for your own child, right? You want to be able to see that to make those interventions. I think even less than skills, it's a confidence issue. It's about giving them that space to try them out. But on the sort of other side of that question, if you like, what skills do they need to embrace it? What skills do they need in the future is a massive question. I don't think AI will replace teachers. I think we'll have more teachers. I genuinely do. But I think that you'll end up with two layers of teachers, because I've seen it in colleges, in further educational, vocational training colleges, where you're having to essentially have students in the UK specifically resitting maths and English to get their hairdressing qualification, to get their social care qualification. If they failed maths and English at school, they have to redo it. What's interesting is there's a massive shortage of teachers in that sector. So we're the biggest provider in the sector. They're using AI to help plug the gap. But what you've now seen is a layer of facilitators. These are teachers, but they're not subject experts. They're focused on using the technology, and some of them are actually acting as motivational coaches, saying, come on, log in, because if you give kids a learning tool, they will probably want to go out with their friends instead, right? Or play a game or something like that. And they'll encourage them, and then they'll help them, and then they'll use the data to make interventions. And then the other layer of teachers will be subject experts. And I think that we'll always have those. And then the facilitator can potentially spend more time on the pastoral care of children. We're seeing a rise in mental health issues. Maybe that's also because we didn't uncover so many of them before. But whatever the reasons, that human-to-human interaction, I think, is essential in the school. And I think that we're going to see more of that being nurtured and developed outside of AI and laptops and opening up tablets and mobile phones. But then to use those for the purposes they are brilliant at, why do you want to mark 250 questions when a machine can do it really well? That's not what you signed up to do when you signed up to be a teacher. You signed up to use information to make an intervention and improve outcomes. So for that, as I said, it's the time and the space. Play with it, use it, and off you go,
But do you think that we already have the right infrastructure ready for that, ready to transform the schools and to help and support the teachers?
Yeah, so there's a danger with some institutions that they don't have, people always say, oh, we've got the AI, and I talk about AI quite a lot, but I'm like, guys, you can't really talk about AI unless you've got the hardware and the connectivity. So we launched in Malawi with Alan Turing's family, the Turing Trust, right? But it's really sad when we're like, oh, how did it go? You know, and they're like, the electricity, there's no electricity. You're like, okay, you know, you need the fundamentals. So there are many schools out there, particularly in the private sector, they have the connectivity, they've got, you know, fast bandwidth, they've got the hardware, they're investing in it. They sort of want to show the parents they're investing in it as well, and they're able to leverage this. In the state sector, there is an onus on governments to hurry up. You know, when we were kids, and I was just saying this earlier to a journalist here, I was like, when we were kids, we used to think about the utilities that are fundamental, you know, in certain parts of the world. And sadly, there are other parts of the world that don't even have those basic utilities. What's so interesting is that in places like this, right, in the UK, the internet is seen as an essential utility. In fact, you can't even go to a city and do various things now without your mobile and the ability to pay for something online, etc., right? People aren't accepting the older forms of payment, for example. So ensuring that that hardware and that connectivity is there is the fundamental sort of layer to then enable the software. There is no shortage of software being developed in these areas. And that is the fragmentation that you'll often see, sadly. And that is something that all of us should keep pushing for. And even if we have all the technology we need, there's going to be a school out there in Spain, for sure. There'll be many that don't feel confident they have the infrastructure to even be able to take something like this on. And then you exacerbate the digital divide. You know, you exacerbate the problem because some kids have the advantage and the others don't.
It's again some kind of self-confidence problem.
Self-confidence and infrastructure, government investment.
Altogether.
Yeah, you have to do it if you want to see the changes. And this is evolving at such a rapid pace. So GPT-3 and 3.5 that many of you are on because it's free, and there are, by the way, there are other applications that are using large language models. So you can look at Anthropic, which has Claude. You can look at Google's technology as well. But if you go on those technologies, there's now GPT-4, which is paid for, that's very, very powerful, okay? They're working on technology that's 1,000 times more powerful than that, and they're suggesting that that might even be out in the next year. So what these technologies will be able to do is mind-blowing, right? And then what entrepreneurs are doing is we're saying, okay, here is the infrastructure. Let's apply it in a really clever way to a sector to create social good. I mean, with Century, there's the language models, but we've built proprietary AI for 8-9 years, and we have that technology out there. So there is an absolute sort of, it's urgent. I mean, it doesn't feel urgent sometimes, but it is urgent because, yeah, I mean, just for ours alone, if you have schools across 62 countries using it already, then others are not. And so, and the thing is, the technology is available and it's accessible, right? But it's just, how do we get it in the hands of the people who need it? This is a self-selecting group. They've come here. They want to know more. They want to talk to each other. They want to network. The best things in these rooms often happen over there when you're talking to each other over the really nice-looking chocolate cake. But that's what happens. But what about the people that don't ever come? And we mustn't forget those people, because I think sometimes, especially tech entrepreneurs and CEOs will sit on stage and it's all about the tech. And you just got to remember that there's a very small percentage of people taking advantage of this right now. But we care about all children. We care about all teachers. So in Spain, the answer would, the question would be, how do we get this to them? How do we do it? Yeah, and is it millions and millions of euros of investment of marketing and sales, but then that increases the price of the technology? Or is there an onus on government to, actually take steps here? Is there an onus on organizations to take a step here? Because teachers are busy, and it always comes down to that. Oh, they should do this. No. They don't have time to do much more. I mean, everyone has a bit of, I find people have short memories. In COVID, when your kids were at home and you had 1 to 3 or 4 of them, and you found it difficult to educate them, these teachers have got 30 of them, and they're erratic, and they have crazy personalities, and you're trying to deploy and deliver a curriculum in a short period of time. And what you find, and this is applicable to Spain, I'm afraid, as well as the UK, the US, new ministers, new governments come in, and what do? They add to the curriculum. It's like the tax code. They just add, add, add. I'm like, look, if you want to do more, you've got to take something away. And there's parts of the curriculum, I would argue, it's controversial, that are actually highly irrelevant. You know, we need the future skills. We need to focus on a relevant curriculum. A foundation, a solid foundation of knowledge and skills is absolutely crucial. I believe literacy, there's no argument about that. But there's a lot there that doesn't give teachers actually freedom and choice. You'll end up with some history teacher, I bet. Anywhere in Madrid, we could go say, what could you teach where, I mean, everyone knows a teacher's name. If I say, who changed your life at school? There isn't a person in this room that won't be able to name a teacher's name. You could actually increase that probably by 10x by giving teachers a bit more freedom, because some of them are just stood there having to deliver what they're told. And actually sometimes if you say, how would you do this? What would you focus on? What area or part of Spanish history would you deliver? And they're like, well, at university I studied this and I did a master's in this. Are you allowed to teach? No. You know, it's really interesting. So Victoria, there's so much that big thinking, but the only thing is, having been in this for 10 years, I have to tell you, I'm exhausted of all the talking, and I just want to see policymakers do the doing, right?
I'm bringing over the tools that we need to have in place
They're there.
to deliver and to scale.
Yeah, they're there.
I want to ask you something a bit more personal. You're a woman from a minority ethnic background. Is it still naive to believe that this doesn't matter, that it has not impacted at all your journey as an entrepreneur?
When I started this journey and I came to your offices in London and said, I've got an idea and I want to build a social enterprise. And the reason Wayra was so great was because they had this social impact arm as well that you sort of sign up to, and it's all about like trying to change the world. And I was like, I want to create this company, and Wayra invested in me first. But do you know how many people said, no, go home, you're not a former engineer, what are you going to do with this? The other one who said, but you don't look like an AI entrepreneur. And I was like, what does one look like? And then, not to get too dark, but I think Me Too has helped a lot, because I have suffered a lot prior to Me Too. You know, being in 6 due diligence meetings for an investor who only wants to give you £50,000, but then he hands you a hotel key card to his room upstairs. When you're, you know, it's just ridiculous, the things that you have to, and some people who still think they can get away with this. It's hard. I always thought when I started it, I'm signing up with Wayra as my simpatico. We are going to go for the education battle. We're going to serve you, the teachers and the students, and let's change the world. I didn't realize actually that I was also fighting a gender battle and a race battle and an accent battle. I'm from the north of England, and all of that. And it's really hard. So it is naive to think that it doesn't matter at all. But what I would say to anyone, even teachers in the room who've got a cool idea that will transform the classroom, and you're waiting, listen, we cannot be defeated by this. This is a battle worth fighting, okay? And I get goosebumps when I say it. It is a battle worth fighting. We're fighting it for everyone who comes after us, but these are social problems that need fixing yesterday, right? And we can't give up. And the wonderful thing is there is so much opportunity actually now because of a realization of the issues. Do you know how many panels and more things I get invited to do because I'm not a white male, right, from Oxford or Cambridge. And I know that sounds, sometimes it's really awful. The other day I got asked to sit on a panel because I am the diversity factor, and I was like, oh, I don't want to. I want to come because I can add value. And that's your decision. And I'm being honest, right? And I think Victoria knows when she asked me this question. She's known me for long enough. I'm not going to give you a stage answer. I'm going to give you the truth. The point is, every single one of us from our backgrounds, no matter what you look like, and if you are white and male, we all have our own sort of stories, our own background, our own experience to add value, right? So you've got to take and grab those positions. So if you are a female, if you're from an ethnic minority, if you're from a different background, inclusion and diversity is much more than just, gender and ethnicity. It's about economic background. It's about all sorts of things. But I would just say step up and take the opportunity, because actually people are looking for you right now. And you have, in a sense, that advantage to take. But it all boils down to a very, very simple thing. And the reason you fight the fight, and the reason it's worth it, and the reason you face adversity, and so many of us have faced all sorts of adversity and challenges in our life, and mine will be a different story to others, is we're all driven by a North Star. You know, we're all driven by a purpose. And I know that many of the teachers who put their hand up in the room, or your educators, you're doing it for a reason. And it's just reminding yourself of that every day. For me, every time I get a kid who writes into the platform or into the office, I got an I, heart, sen, and then Cheery was written at the bottom from this like 6-year-old posted to my office. I had a child who said at the back, this was the one I'll never forget. She was really quiet. I went to visit the school, and she said to me, she came up to me afterwards, she made sure no one could really see that she was it wasn't in the middle of everyone in the school. And she said, I want to thank you because I'll never be stuck again. And I said, but you've got your teachers. And she said, but when I put my hand up, I get picked on by the kids, like I get bullied. And I thought, wow, it's cost me £22 million to build this company. A lot of investors, but 80 to 90 angel high net worth investors, Wire and MIT. I have no venture capital, no private equity for various reasons. And that girl was worth £22 million, right? And then there are so many more of them out there. So if you have that North Star and that purpose, Victoria, despite all the challenges and all the problems, you get through it because there's something much more important out there to fight for.
I would love to keep on asking questions, but that thing over there says
It says time is up. Wow. And it's in English. Priya,
Yeah.
shut up.
So I think, I don't know.
Listen, I just want to say that if anyone wants to reach out, Victoria, they can ask
One
questions.
question. Do you have
It
one
was
question?
short and
One,
sweet.
do you have one?
You have a question?
One more and that's it. Okay. If you could travel back in time, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Oh my gosh, 20-year-old self. I think I would say actually to my 20-year-old self, don't care too much what everyone thinks. I'm known, by the way, today, I'm 42. I'm very proud to say that I'm 42.
She looks
Because
great.
no, you're lovely. You're my friend, so I don't trust you. That was fake news, like there.
No way.
We don't need AI.
I'm super
You're very
honest.
sweet. No, you're lovely. I'm 42, and I'm proud to say that I'm 42 because in this world where, I mean, last weekend, I mean, it couldn't get any worse. Not everyone gets to turn 42. So I'm really lucky. But I'm known as one of the most disruptive and rebellious entrepreneurs out there. Like, I'm super ambitious, but I'm ambitious for making difference. When I was 20, I wanted to be a barrister because I thought equity and justice was how you change the world. So I thought, that's what I'll do. And that's my whole life is, I'm an East African Indian kid who was born very privileged. And I spent lots of time in East Africa where there was lots of poverty, and I wanted to change that. I felt embarrassed that I had a pretty dress and pretty sandals and, a car with a driver when you go to Nairobi. You have servants in servant quarters. And then there are kids outside your house that don't have fresh water. And I felt, frankly, embarrassed in that situation. So I wanted to change the world. But I think when I was 20, I thought too much what everyone... I thought about what everyone thought, what's their opinion, and that mattered to me too much. I don't care what anyone thinks now. I just know that you just got to have a vision and a focus and say, whenever you see me now, there's me, there's my focus, there's a straight line between me and that, and everything else is noise. Everything else is noise, because you just got to go at it. So I would say don't care too much about what people think, but also, that's for me historically, for a 20-year-old now, what I would say is, look, and I think they're much more savvy than actually many of us, right? With the technology, things are changing. But the policymakers that decide the structures within which you have been educated and within which maybe you might proceed in your lifelong learning journey, it's a little bit old school. So the world actually has opportunity at your feet. And you don't need to follow a traditional education path. You could go online, you can upskill yourself. Lifelong learning is the key skill. I like to call it learning agility. Like agile in terms of technical and manufacturing development, and basically upskilling and reskilling depending on change. that opportunity is there for you. Those future skills that I put up on that slide before, every teacher has been teaching you those things despite the education system. That's one thing I do know. Teachers do it regardless. It's just that they're told to teach certain things and they do the other stuff anyway. Focus on those areas. That is where the delta will be between technology and you being a human. And take advantage of it, because it's yours for the taking. Life is an adventure, okay?
Enjoy
it's
it.
like this. Entrepreneurs only ever feel euphoria and terror, okay? The euphoria is easy, and frankly, it doesn't matter. The terror and the fear and the disruption, how you come back up from that is what defines you as a person. So make it your own. Have an epic adventure. And thank you everyone for spending 45 minutes with me and Victoria. Thank you.
Hope you have had
Gracias.
fun. Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.